The Empty Man is a 2020 film directed by David Pryor. This is written by Pryor with a cast including James Badge Dale, Marin Ireland, Sasha Frolova, and various others. No problems with any of the performances. The film is about an hour longer than it needed to be. It's about 2 hours 15, 2 hours 20, and they could have told the story in an hour and 20, maybe an hour and 30. It's a very, very messy narrative. And I'd say there's only one interesting character. This is the character of James, and James is investigating. He's a former detective, and he's investigating this empty man. I don't want to say the word theory, that's not the right word. This empty man concept. It starts off with somebody going missing, leaving behind a note saying the empty man made them do it. And then as things progress, we find out that this idea of the empty man makes people do rather shocking things. As a concept, I don't hate it. I think it could work really, really well, but the story is very slow, very dull, very messy. It's a very poorly written narrative. As I said, I did like the character of James. He's played by James Badge Dale, and I liked him. I thought he was a good protagonist. I'm not saying that that's enough to save the film. It's not that I enjoyed his scenes, the bulk of the film, of course. Even when the narrative wasn't very good, it wasn't enough to save the story. But I did like him credit where it's due. Visually, it's not a bad film. It doesn't look too bad. The camera work's not bad. But the story is very messy. It's not scary. There's hardly any suspense in this. It's not a dark film. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work very well. As a concept, yeah, I like the idea. I think it has a lot of potential. I think it could have been a very scary, very dark film with a very intimidating concept of the empty man. But the execution is so poor. It's very, very, very slow. And when things do happen, they're really not that interesting anyway. So unfortunately, I didn't think The Empty Man was a good experience. And as I said, it was at least half an hour longer than it needed to be. But I'd say we could have told the story within an hour and a half. We could have easily chopped off almost an hour without really losing anything. So it definitely needed a lot of work. But even with that being said, the rest of the characters were quite boring, and the horror aspect just is so weak. So unfortunately, it's not a good film. It had potential, but the execution wasn't very good, and that means that, unfortunately, I can't recommend The Empty Man.